Greetings and welcome to the Astronomy Picture of the Day podcast. Today's picture for February 27th of 2025 is titled Open Star Clusters M35 and NGC 2158. So what do we see here? Well, here we see two open star clusters, and they look very close together in the sky, but that's not necessarily always the case. And in fact, the star cluster to the upper right, which is NGC 2158, is relatively nearby, a little less than 3,000 light years away from us. Whereas the other cluster down toward the lower left is about 4 times farther away. So at a much greater distance. And that kind of leads to its more compact appearing size and why they look so different, even though they are similar types of star clusters. Now, open star clusters are relatively young and tend to have a lot of blue stars in them. And we see that in the cluster to the upper right, that it has a lot of blue stars there. And that gives us a rough age of them. And we can actually estimate an age of about 150 million years for this cluster. Now, while that sounds like a long time to us, in terms of star clusters, that's relatively young. And many of those hot blue stars will not live for a much longer time than a few 100 million years. The other cluster, again at a greater distance, is also older, and it is about 10 times the age. So we're looking at about 1 billion years old, still relatively young compared to our 4.5 billion-year-old sun, but a much older cluster by comparison to the very nearby cluster, at least as we look at them on the sky. Now, open clusters are not gravitationally bound. They don't have enough material in them to really be able to hold themselves together over time. So over time, they will disperse themselves out into space, and the clusters will slowly disappear over billions of years. And it is very likely that our own sun was once part of a cluster much like one of these two, and that it was one of these stars there that eventually just dissipated out into space with the other members of that cluster. The big bright hot ones, the blue stars, having long since gone through their lives and being gone, and the other stars having just dispersed out throughout the general stars within the Milky Way. So here we get to see two examples of open clusters, one a little bit closer to the upper right and also a little bit younger, showing many distinct blue stars. The other to the lower left, showing more reddish stars as the stars have evolved over time and have become red giants rather than the large blue stars that we see in the other cluster. But again, very likely that our sun started out in a cluster much like these. So that was our picture of the day for February 27th of 2025. It was titled Open Star Clusters M35 and NGC 2158. We'll be back again tomorrow for the next picture. So until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.